War Room Sports is brought to you by Audible.com. Download a free audiobook of your choice by going to audibletrial.com/War Room Sports.
We're going to bring him on. He's a UCLA alum, and you might know him. He was a shooting guard for the Washington Bullets/Wizards, the Portland Trail Blazers, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. But these days, he's making his money as a sports agent. So we're going to bring into the War Room for the very first time Mitch Butler. Mitch, you there?
I'm here, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
No
My
problem.
man, money making Mitch.
I like the way that sounds. Money making Mitch.
That's right. That's what it's about. Got to get it done. All right, so this is Devin, by the way. Me and Akil spoke with you the other day. So, Akil, you can go ahead, take it away, and do what you do, bro.
All right, man. Well, let's talk about it.
All right, where's Akil? Oh,
Where'd Akil go?
There he is.
Yeah, I didn't.
I had to self-mute it.
Oh, sorry about that. I was still in the screening room. Sorry about that, fellas. Okay, Mitch, it's great to have you on the show, and I'm gonna start off with a question. I'm pretty sure that the life of an NBA player and an agent are quite different. How is that transition from player to agent been for you, and what have you or others around you done to make it smoother?
Well, for me, pretty much it was a natural progression. You know, I finished up playing in 2004, and ironically enough, when I was released, I was offered a coaching job in the exact same sentence. It kind of blew my mind. My coach, Jeff Bizdelik, the Denver Nuggets, he sits me down and he says, Mitch, we're going to have to release you, but we'd like to hire you as an assistant coach. And I'm sitting there like, wait a minute, what's going on? And I pretty much knew I was at the end of the road. The wheels weren't turning like they used to. They're a little squeaky, a little wobbly, and Carmelo and these guys are blowing past me. Not to say that he wouldn't have blown past me when I was 22, but definitely being 33, it made it seem like it was just 1,000 times worse. But that transition for me, I took a year and I worked with the Washington Wizards as director of player development. So I was a coach behind the bench and kind of a liaison between the player and the coach, the player and the general manager, and the general manager and the coach. So I did that for a year and then jumped over into the agent business. So it wasn't like it was a direct, smooth transition over, but one in which, I got a chance to see every aspect of the business, from player to coach to management to an agent. And the transition for me has been smooth. It's been good, very well received by my peers in the business, obviously very well perceived and received by general managers and team personnel people. So the transition for me has been good.
All right, Mitch, this is Devin again. That's a hell of a way to get released. I'm hoping when I get fired from my job that they ask me to be an executive in the same sentence.
No, right? You actually get a promotion when you're getting released.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so basically I'd assume that as an agent in this whole lockout situation, I'd assume you'd be 100% on the side of the players, but I really don't want to assume. So from an agent's perspective, what are your thoughts on the NBA lockout, and do you think the sides are close enough to avoid missing any time this season?
Well, that's a safe assumption. Pretty safe. And, we stand behind our guys, and listen, at the end of the day, this is a much different situation than football. Football, they were bickering over how to split $9 billion. There are a couple of teams here that are losing money, and I think the owner's approach to this in terms of going into the players' pockets and taking it directly from the players is the wrong approach. There has to be some form of revenue sharing amongst the owners, which the Players Association has on record that there's some owners that don't want to participate in that because they've done well by their teams, they've built a great brand in their market, and they're selling that market to consumers in their marketplace, and that's part of running a business, and they don't want to have to share that with other owners. But in order for this to work, there has to be some form of revenue sharing. Listen, there are $600-700 million apart per year on this deal. Does that say today that they're going to lose games? It sounds like it to me. But I think you really can't evaluate this until you get to the point where real checks are being lost. That means checks by the players are being lost, and that's at the start of the season. And that means checks by the owners or revenue by the owners is being lost because nobody's coming through those gates. Once you get to that point, then I think you'll really start to see the urgency with which to get a deal done. Same thing happened in football, although, like I said, they were fighting over different things. It wasn't until they got to the twilight hours where you could potentially lose a season and a lot of money could go down the drain that people became very urgent with their negotiations.
Okay, Mitch, this is Jimmy, by the way.
There's a big difference. Oh, Jim, real quick, I was saying he's right. There's a big difference between what they're fighting for because, in the NFL, and at the end of the day, I really don't even know exactly what they got done because a lot of the things that they did in the NFL, I'm not going to say it stayed the same, but you just look at what actually happened and you wonder if all of that was worth it. But go ahead, Jim, if you can ask your question.
No, my question was this, Mitch. By the way, thanks for joining us again. But my question is this: if the lockout persists, are you in favor of the players playing in other countries to stay active and get paid during the work stoppage? What's your opinion of that?
I have one better. I think that what you're currently seeing right now with all the barnstorming around by Kevin Durant, Kobe Bryant's made a few cameos, LeBron has made a few cameos in some of these places, Chris Paul, Carmelo. I think the players need to figure out a way to somehow galvanize the entire body, the entire union. Maybe you go and you play for your team and in your particular city, and you do it old school style. You get on buses, you ride around, and you play these games on college campuses, and, you may not make the type of money that you're making now, but the message is clear to the owners that, hey, we're as much part of this entire revenue-generating stream as, think and we believe. I think right now the position is that, with these guys going overseas, they're helping to enhance the NBA brand. The NBA will be a global brand somewhere between 5 to 10 years from now. Games will be played on another continent, and teams will go over for weeks at a time and, play within the league there, and there's going to be this global world championship that will be played at the end of some season. That's going to occur. That's the vision here when you look at the NBA and how it's being positioned going forward. So the players going over and playing in these countries is only going to be helping that NBA brand when they get back to the negotiating table. Now, that being said, absolutely some of these players should be taking advantage of that because when you look at what these players could be potentially losing off of a deal, some of these guys will probably lose somewhere between 15 to 20% of their total earning power during their NBA careers. Some of these guys will play through one big contract. And let's say you lose this whole year of basketball, and that year paid you $7 or $8 million, and that was the biggest year on your deal. That's maybe 15 to 20% of your total earnings while you played basketball. That's a lot of money to leave on the table. So they should have the right to, and they should have the desire to want to go overseas to offset that or to eliminate as much of the hit that they're going to take on their pocketbooks.
Well, let me ask you another question. As an agent, I don't know if you've had this experience or not, but how different is it to negotiate a contract for a player playing in another country as opposed to the NBA?
Well, I mean, as an NBA certified agent, I'm not FIBA certified, so I basically I negotiate through a FIBA certified agent in Europe, and we have lots of relationships and contacts in Europe, and what we do is we put a number out there that we're interested in, and the team will have some banter back and forth with us. We'll make sure that we've got the necessary insurances and the necessary clauses within the contract. If we want an NBA out clause or we want performance bonuses, any of those things attached to it. So, it's basically like negotiating a contract here. You're just doing it through another person who is FIBA certified.
Okay, thanks.
And Mitch, I actually think that was a pretty good idea you had, about them going around the college campuses making money on their own. It's a good idea, but you're not getting these players on no buses, man.
Well, let me tell you this.
Like their Harlem Wrens on.
Let me tell you this, guys, and to keep it really real. The question that I always pose to athletes today is what do you do that is something that can immortalize you, that can make you be remembered forever? You know, you go back in time and you look at some of the great athletes, Muhammad Ali, Arthur Ashe, Bill Russell, Jim Brown, there's probably a whole host of Jackie Robinson, people that I'm forgetting. These people stood for something on an athletic field. They stood for something that was really powerful and really huge so that Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Dwight Howard, so that these guys could enjoy the benefits that they're enjoying today. What will you do? What legacy can you leave behind? And if that means that you get on a bus and you ride 5 or 7 hours, or you buy a commercial ticket and you get on a plane and you fly commercially to participate in the game, to let someone know that, hey, I'm not going to let you take away what so many people have fought so hard for, you got to have a purpose at some point. And these athletes got to stop being, viewed and looked at as prima donnas, that guys that won't grind it out and get themselves dirty. They came from that. Most of these guys came from that. They know what it's like to not have food, to not have clothes, to not, your parents living month to month, check to check, sometimes behind rent, not knowing where you're going to stay. They know that, so your ability to want to fight for everything that you believe that other guys before you stood for, that's huge, man. And, I think that if the right person gets in front of these guys and spells it out to them that way, you can't help but, touch these guys in the chest. They're going to make money. They're going to be fabulously wealthy and rich and should be able to take care of their kids. But you got to stand for something. You watch the Kurt Flood show on HBO. This guy gave up his baseball career for free agency. I mean, come on, man. Stand for something.
Well, I feel you.
That's major, man. That's major, miss. That's major because it's like you're becoming a people's champion. You're championing the wants of the people because the people want ball.
Absolutely. Muhammad Ali is arguably the most recognizable athlete in the world. The world. Not because of what he did in the ring, but because of what he stood for outside the ring.
Exactly.
I mean, this guy stood for something much bigger than the game of boxing. These guys have a chance to stand on a soapbox and be much bigger than the game of basketball. And that's taking that position in that stance. Hey, we're not going to let you touch what we built. Built this over 70 years. That's big.
That's true. That's an excellent point. Mitch, this is PJ. Just as you alluded to earlier, we know that the NBA players, they usually play ball in summer leagues, but this summer, due to the lockout, it's like the games are way more high profile. So are you a little bit more nervous about clients playing in these like highly competitive leagues while the lockout is going on, especially considering the fact that they don't have access to NBA trainers and team doctors and things like that?
I love it, man. When I played, we played nonstop all day. You're going to be playing anyway. So the fact that they have these leagues going on, the Drew League, the Goodman League, the Mello League, that's the first sign that, hey, we're onto something here. Now if you want to get creative with this thing and you want to start looking at online streaming of these games and maybe trying to put together some type of financial package with a Google or with a Hulu or with something like that. You're talking about capturing content, presenting content to the consumers. They don't have it now. The NBA is on a lockout. Some people need their basketball fix. So if you can put together teams of Carmelo, LeBron, and Chris Paul, and you pit them against Kevin Durant, Juan Dixon, John Wall. You come out to L.A., you got Paul Pierce, Baron Davis, James Harden, JaVale McGee, Brandon Jennings. Come on, man. People are going to pay to see that. People want to see that. There's a way that you can construct this so that, there's content being delivered, There's some form of a compensation package. The big guys may not even need the money. The LeBrons and those guys, really, that's what I'm saying. Stand up and do something for the smaller guys. You know, the guys that, you know, ride this lockout out. You know, take a position in a stance that's really strong, that's really, you know, that has teeth to it. And, you know, you really start to, I think, shake the very core and the fabric of how these owners are looking at, you know, approaching this lockout.
And you got me looking at this lockout in a whole different way right now.
A whole nother light. A whole nother light. Like we now have to think about putting together the War Room series of summer league ball or even fall league ball with Mitchell Butler's help, money making Mitch. Come on, man.
That's my you got, man. You know, you got to be willing to think outside the box here. You know, if you go, you know, and you try to go up against the owner, a millionaire will never outlast a billionaire. It just doesn't happen. But if you can get creative, you know, the little guy, you know, the David can always slay Goliath with a little bit of forethought. And if you have a little bit of forethought, a little bit of ingenuity, and a little bit of sacrifice, everybody's got to be willing to sacrifice a little bit. Trust me, you will win. Dr. Martin Luther King didn't walk all those steps, have rocks thrown in his face, people spit on him, dogs bite him, you know, water hoses being turned on him. You know, he didn't take those small little steps as David to slay Goliath. I mean, that was an insurmountable task. It was insurmountable. There were people saying, "Oh man, you're crazy. There's no way that you're going to be able to change, you know, the way that this country works and operates." But his desire, his will, his willing to sacrifice, lay himself on the line for that. And man, I mean, you know, you guys have a radio show, man. You know, it's awesome. That's awesome.
We're the voice. Money making Mitch. This is B. Austin. We really appreciate having you on, and as you know, I can definitely echo the sentiments of my brothers when I say that, you know, you've given us a perspective and opened eyes to looking at this lockout in a whole nother light. But on another note, we've seen you acting in a couple flicks, Blue Chips and Rebound. Now, you've played a ball player in both. Which comes naturally to you? You know, because that's what you are. But how did you get into those projects, and how did you enjoy those experiences? And will we see you on the silver screen again?
You know what? You probably won't see me on the screen again. You'll probably see me behind it in some way or capacity. We've had an opportunity to do a project with Dwight Howard that you know, we're hoping to get sold. The project's called Divas and Jocks, and you know, Dwight's an executive producer on it, and you know, our company will have an executive producer's credit as well. So you'll probably see me operating more behind the camera, you know, helping to put these things together. I think a lot of athletes have natural acting talents and ability. We are entertainers. You know, we just do it in a different format, in a different way that, you know, is standard in Hollywood. But, you know, my experience with having, you know, had the opportunity to participate on the big screen, if I knew that I had a script thrown at me, you know, once every month, I'd be an actor. It's the best job that you could potentially have. I mean, it's fun. You know, the hours and the people that you meet on set. You know, we had so much fun doing Blue Chips. It was one big party. Shaq was the biggest kid in the world, and you know, Penny was great, and you know, then we have all these other, you know, athletic personalities. You know, people forget, you know, Calvert Chaney, Rodney Rogers, Bobby Hurley, Rex Walters. There were so many guys in that movie, and you know, we had a blast filming it, and it was so much fun. And you know, I got it through a UCLA alumni, guy named Sandy Bressler, who represents Jack Nicholson. And you know, he pitched me for the role, and I read for Butch McRae, but they were looking for a little bit of a bigger name, so they happened to go with a guy who had a little doll named after him called Penny. So, but, you know, doing Rebound, the Legend of Earl Manigault, that was great. That was a lot of fun working with Eric LaSalle. You know, again, you know, there's a camaraderie and fun on the set that is just, it's second to none. You know, and what I've loved to participated in a movie where I could play something other than a basketball player, yes, so but that day may come still. You can't totally rule that out.
Could Don Cheadle ball?
He's not bad. Now the funny
really?
thing is that our kids go to school together now, so I see him all the time, and I'm like, man, he had you on that trampoline when you were going up dunking, right?
Yeah, that was some of the fake looking dunks. Hey, Mitch, we got a question from the chat room, and we're gonna get you out of here on that one. Well, first of all, we got a comment and a question. Somebody told us to tell you that Richard Petruska's jump shot was greater than yours.
Oh man! But never met a shot he didn't like,
But here's and that was from Naran in the chat room. But the question is from Minister Kevin Carter in the chat room. His question is, what would your advice be to the younger generation of athletes on investing their earnings to secure the future? And like I said, we'll get you out of here on that one.
That's a great question. I myself have always envisioned myself heading up and running an agency where our athletes take ownership in what they do. I'm a very radical outside of the box thinker. I believe that if Nike or Adidas or if Under Armour is willing to walk to you and hand you $10 million to endorse a product of theirs, what are they making? And I think all too often athletes will sell themselves out for the quick buck. And again, that just goes back to having a value, a moral, having a value of yourself as a person to be able to say, you know what, I'm not going to be used that way. Or, you know what, I'll sign this 3-year deal out of college. And then once I become a superstar, I'm going to start my own line, my own brand. Why not? There's a reason why Nike will not offer anyone the same deal that brand Jordan has, that Michael Jordan has. It'll never be done again. They realize that, that's a bad model. That's something that we cannot afford to do. So that in itself should be a message to all these young athletes that, take control of your brand. Your brand may be strong enough to only get you to be good in your community. But if you're good in your community, there's a way that you can help your community. You can monetize that. You can have dollars circulating in your community. But if you're the type of person that can carry a national brand or an international brand, there's no way why you should sell yourself to another company. If you can't partner with that person and bring together a product that consumers can use, you shouldn't be doing it. Everyone should be looking at Magic Johnson and saying, that's the business model that I want. Before Magic does anything, he's going to have his name sitting right next to the main brand's name, and that's just how it goes. So, my message to all the young people would be, hey, take control of your brand. Take control of who you are, because, trust me, it's worth something. And for some guys, it's worth a really, really big number.
I know. That's really, really good advice, Mitch, and we appreciate you being on the show. We must, have you back one day so we can do this again. It's been very enlightening. Fellas, y'all got anything real quick y'all want to say before we get Mitch off?
Yeah, Mitch, I wanted you to let the people know who do you represent, or what's a sample in your artist roster, or not artist, your athlete roster.
Yeah, I currently represent Dwight Howard and Avery Bradley. Those are my two clients that I represent. Within my firm, we represent about 30 NBA guys. We have Nene, Anderson Varejao, Jason Terry, Sean Marion, Al Harrington, Drew Gooden, John Wall, a whole host of other guys as well that I'm probably forgetting. But, it's a big-time agency, Lagardère Unlimited, and, we've got a nice client roster. And
I admit you got to work on getting Superman for us for the show, man. Gotta work on it.
We'll see what we can do, man. We'll see.
All right, it's great having you on, man. Thanks for calling in.
Real quick, before we that's okay. Hey, Mitch, this is Akil again. I just wanted to give you props just on your basketball career, and then switching that over to acting, switching over to business, and almost being a champion for the people, for the cause, and just being knowledgeable in every aspect. And I feel like the NBA should hire you for their rookie symposium. You could just speak to all the young guys coming in, so you can impart your knowledge. So that's all I had to say.
I appreciate that, man. These guys definitely could use that, and someone who's walked in their exact footsteps, would certainly be good. And I always want to see these guys do a lot better than I've done. So, it'd be awesome.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for
you again.
Mitch.
Mitch.
Really appreciate it. Mitchell Butler, everybody.
Kuwait is the war room with 5 nights at the round table. 5